Jesus always gave away the credit for miracles. He always did that. And here's another example of it. This person healed of leprosy comes back, and he says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And Jesus says, "No need. Your faith did it." That's a consistent refrain of his. Jesus is saying, you turned this into a miracle because you believed in God's power. Your belief that God could do this is what manifested this. And gratitude actually works the exact same way as miracles. We manifest blessings by being grateful from the beginning. When we show up with gratitude, the blessings manifest. And for a lot of us, we intuit this. This is something that's kind of inside of us. And so there's a lot of things that we already do to show that we get it. For example, tomorrow, your grace will be at the beginning of the meal. That's the way we do it. All the food is on the table, and we'll stand around, and somebody will lead us in a prayer. You would think that if we're going to give thanks for the food, we would do it after we've already eaten it, to make sure it's good. I mean, we're giving thanks for something we haven't received yet, right? What if tomorrow you say grace and say, "Thank you, Lord, for this abundant meal," and then it turns out that the turkey wasn't thawed all the way in the middle, and there's a great big ice brick in the middle of it? That could happen, you know. What's interesting is, if we have an ungrateful attitude, we may be thinking like, "I drove all this way for this." Or we're thinking, "God, did you check out during the grace? Did you not hear us? Thank you for the delicious meal." But a grateful person says, "Oh, this is a Thanksgiving to remember. We are never going to forget the year that there was a brick of ice in the middle of that turkey." I learned this lesson 20 years ago, and it is a life changer. Here's the lesson. Bad things don't happen. When something is going to happen to you, you've got a choice. It's either going to be a good thing, or it is going to be a story for the future. That's what can happen to us. The outcomes that we might think of as bad are the ones that make the great stories, the ones that we talk about 5, 10, 20 years from now. My mother grew up in Troy, but raised us in Rochester, and there's not a lot of good Polish food in Rochester. So we were very excited when my Polish grandmother decided to come and make a feast for us. My mom had been hankering for it. And so my grandmother came and made us a full Polish dinner, including my favorite thing, which is also the hardest to make, gołąbkis. And if you've had them, you know how good they are. Well, she spent all day in the kitchen making these gołąbkis, spending a lot of time complaining that things weren't in my mom's kitchen where they were in her kitchen in Troy. But so she finally, after a whole day of making this food, had a beautiful steaming platter of gołąbkis. And right as we were about to go to the table, she said, "Hurry up, I don't want you to eat cold food. Let's go to the table." My dad saw a deer in the backyard, and he said, "There's a deer in the backyard." And we all ran to see the deer, and that is when our dog got up on the counter. The whole platter. Now, can I tell you, my grandmother has been dead now 13 years. But how much joy there is in that story, even with you who weren't there. You see, it seemed like a bad thing at the time. But there aren't really bad things. There's great things, and then there's stories. That is what Jesus is trying to help us understand. If we can make a shift, we will recognize that our faith has saved us. Because it is looking at life with faith that tells us, this thing is already rigged. The story we're in, the life that we're in, it's already rigged. But here's the good news. It's rigged in our favor. Everything is going to work out. So we might as well enjoy the things that appear to be the bad outcomes. Enjoy them. Because they're going to make great stories later. And the good things may be in very unexpected packages. I remember a day back in March when I was completely overwhelmed. I was driving to Boston, where I had agreed to lead a Lenten retreat at a Spanish-speaking parish where I used to serve as a seminarian. And I was overwhelmed by the task. I was driving there when my phone rang, and it was the vocation director of the diocese. And he said, as I'm driving to Boston, overwhelmed with this retreat, "Would you be willing to take a seminarian this summer?" And I thought, oh, come on. Now I've got somebody to babysit on top of all of this other stuff. But the person that he sent us was Matt Duclos. And if you were here this summer, you know how much of a blessing was he. And the more you worked with him, the closer you knew him, the more you realized what an incredible blessing he was for all of us. So here's a question for you. What does that story and the other stories make you think of? What in your life appeared to be a negative outcome, but you soon realized was a great blessing? We start to live life differently when we start being able to recognize as the thing happens, oh, here we go. I wonder what this is all about. It can happen in big things and it can happen in small things. And it happened to me this week. I was trimming my beard, as I do every week, and it was only when I noticed how much hair was in the sink that I looked up and realized that I had forgotten to put the guard on it. And there was a big strip of smooth skin up the side of my face. And I thought, well, great. So I did about the only thing you can do. I shaved the rest of it off. And then I realized that was where all of the white whiskers were hanging out. I loved it. I looked in the mirror and I thought, look at that. I look 10 years younger. So there's not going to be a bad outcome here. There's going to be little good things and there's going to be stories. If we can believe that everything is rigged in our favor, we can begin whatever the experience is with being grateful. We can make the decision. I'm going to be grateful for this because I know that things are rigged in my favor. If your car breaks down, do not react right away. Recognize that you are ripe for a miracle. If your car is giving you trouble, stay on the lookout. And you know, I'm looking out at the faces of people who I've had some incredibly beautiful conversations with, who have been through some really hard things. And I'm telling you, there are people here right now who have said this to me. Father, when I found out I had cancer, I thought it was the end of the world. I now realize it was a blessing. I can't tell you all of the blessings that we've had from cancer. When I lost my job, I thought it was the worst thing that could have happened. But I realize now it was a blessing. I had one family tell me, when our house burned, we thought it was the worst thing that could have happened. But we realize now it was a blessing. All of those people have the same thing in common. They have learned that everything is rigged in our favor and that they have to approach situations from now on with that attitude. A lot of us have wasted a lot of time thinking, oh, I'll be able to be grateful once everything's working out okay and I can be happy. But it isn't happiness that makes us grateful. It's gratefulness that makes us happy. So let's choose to go out of here tonight in total thanksgiving. Let's go into whatever situation you have for Thanksgiving tomorrow with the attitude that it is rigged in your favor, with the understanding that only two things could happen tomorrow, either really good things or great stories for 5 Thanksgivings from now. God has done this for us, so let's rejoice and give thanks. God very sneakily has rigged everything in our favor.